Okay, boys and girls, Mollusk here, another exciting instalment of Malifaux for you. My friend Cog once again pulls the surprise and drops another new master on me, Lucius of the Neverborn. And beyond the fact he can distribute AP, I have no idea what he does, so this is going to be interesting. In terms of terrain, everything's pretty much what it looks like. Buildings, walkways, hard cover, soft cover, yep, that kind of stuff. And just look at all the choke points. This is Lilith's map. And I don't really do this properly because I decide what I'm going to play before I even see the table. But yeah, this has the Mother of Monsters written all over it. So what am I facing? We've got 1, 2, 3 Illuminated, 1, 2, 3 Guildguard, Captain Dashiell, and Lucius. With secret assets, legalese, and surprisingly loyal. And I don't have a huge amount of experience with Malifaux, but that is a fairly lethal crew for a reckoning match. So who have I got to face them? Well, I've got a Waldgeist, a Beckoner, the mature Nephilim with Retribution's Eye, Lilith herself with Wicked Mistress and Beckon Malifaux, Mr. Graves, and at a respectful distance, Barbarous with Fear's Given Form, and finally Lilith's faithful nematode, the Primordial Vomit Worm. The plan? Entourage and Breakthrough synergise really nicely, and they work well with Reckoning, so we're going to storm across the board and cover this area in forests. Lilith's going to hide behind this house, doing her business, and then sprint across to get Entourage at the end. I want Barbarous to get into the deployment zone to start putting down breakthrough counters, and his challenge ability can soak out cards from the guards who will be otherwise distracted facing the rest of my crew. All the while, Primordial Magic will be creeping up the flank to get a nice safe end of game breakthrough counter. Let's see how well we pull it off. Turn 1, a modest hand. I flip the red joker for initiative, and Cog flips the black joker. I make him go first. He sends out 2 of his Illuminated rather aggressively, and I move up with the Beckoner, pulling the Waldgeist with me. Move Lilith, drop the trees. Wicked Vines this Illuminated, but fail to Wicked Vines this one. Which was annoying, because that's the one I wanted to get that off on, because Barbarous has it in his sights. It's at this point we realise what a ridiculously good map this is for Lilith, and that Lucius's crew is going to have an uphill battle. Nevertheless, the cunning guild guards jump up on top of the crates, making them height 4 and therefore able to see over this height 2 obstacle with the Beckoner hiding behind it. There they are on top of their boxes, and this was the best position we could think for them, as they're too slow to get up onto the gantries, and which will be in the better sniping position. Lucius strolls around behind them, and thanks to a ridiculous amount of focusing, one of them manages to do 6 wounds in a single shot to the Beckoner, and I'm starting to realise here that if I put one wrong foot out of the cover, I'm a dead man. Most of the guild companioned themselves to go all at the same time, so in remaining moves, the mature Nephilim hops up to hide behind the house, Mr. Graves shows the door to Barbarous, who then charges the, Illuminated, and beats on it savagely. Finally, the Waldgeist moves up and drops some forests, and I couldn't really think of a good position for them. The idea is really just to stop that Illuminated getting round my flank in the next turn. Turn 2 is a bit of a meh hand, but quite importantly I win the initiative and Barbarous goes. It takes 2 melee actions to finish off the Illuminated, but he uses his nimble to press forward to engage the other one, and starts yelling hurtful names at the rest of the guild. And Lucius and both the guild guards are in his challenge range, and this is a great position. One of the guild guards effortlessly takes the head off the Beckoner, and then, with no focuses, manages to shoot through a forest, over a box, at a camouflaged tree, and freaking nails it right in the eye. But thanks to his armour, the Waldgeist only takes 1 damage. But what a crazy good shot. The guild guard next to him also tries his luck, but misses and then black jokers. Then the third guild guard has a crack and puts another wound on the tree. And as I'm making this report, I've just realised you can't do that. You can only companion or accomplice once in a row. Whoopsie. This marker, by the way, got put down in the first turn with one of Lucius's commanding presences, or whatever it's called. Lilith goes, walks up the street, moves the forests to be annoying to the guild guards and open up this charge lane. She then Wicked Vines the Illuminated here and the Illuminated in the backyard fighting Barbarous. I wanted to show you the door to get both the Nephilim into flurry range and get Mr. Graves up, but unfortunately the Nephilim can't push past this corner. So I charge with them instead, and rip the Illuminated to tiny little pieces. However, I make a big mistake in putting him slightly within Lilith's forest, which means that the gun line now has line of sight to him. The foppish secretary gallantly stands in front of his hulking bodyguard, and call it a hunch, but I think I know what secret scheme he has. Lucius calls in a hidden sniper from this scheme marker, which I had no idea about, and does a decent 3 damage to my mature. He then kicks the guild guards into line, and they freaking pulverise my Nephilim. That placement was a huge mistake. So by the end of the turn, things look like this. My, Primordial Magic is now on the other side of this house. Mr. Graves has shuffled up a bit, and the tree has now moved up, germinated its forests, and now has a 4-inch engagement range. So other than my mature eating a lead storm, things look like they're going to plan. Thanks to Lilith and the Primordial Magic, I get some card cycling, and I decide to drop the Black Joker down this turn, as I think it's going to be pretty key. My hand's good, but it's nothing to really write home about. Sadly, I lose the initiative, and Lucius calls upon his chaps to blast the crap out of my mature Nephilim. As things progress, Barbarous and Lilith take down the Illuminated that was in the backyard, and that thing was not a joke. It did 6 damage to Barbarous, which I negated down to 3 with Soulstone, and also healed itself 4 damage in the same activation. And it took both Lilith and her Knight to bring it down in the end. Lilith charged to finish it off and then moved up to that fence, where she can be in a little bit of cover, be in range to affect the rest of the battle, and jump into the deployment zone for entourage and breakthrough if needed. The Woldgeist is gone, it's now touching Lilith's forest, so it's moved its own, and now is engaging every single one of the guild, or Guild Neverborn, which is fantastic. It also cleared a line for Mr. Graves to charge Lucius, which was a bit lackluster because I missed one and then got weak damage with the other hit, which was Soulstone down to 1 damage, so yeah. Dashel, by the way, didn't really take much part in this turn because he got paralysed by Lucius's magnificence. Going into turn 3, now that is the kind of hand we want to see. I think I won initiative. Mr. Graves went, attacking Captain Dashel, but really not doing much damage, I don't think. Lucius then goes, and gives Mr. Graves what for with his pimp cane, sending the scallywag scampering. Not very impressed with that performance, Mr. Graves. Barbarous charges, hacks his way through one of the guild guards, and then nimbles to cause a massive problem for Lucius's crew because they're all engaged with the tree. They have to make constant willpower tests for Barbarous's challenge. Dashel and the guild guard beat on the Woldgeist. They cut it with their steely knives, but they just can't kill the beast. Lurking behind the fence, Lilith shifts the trees, placing them under Dashel but still touching the Woldgeist. And it is a bit silly that you can do that. She then Wicked Vines him to root him, and then Wicked Mistresses him to pull him out, damaging him and making him slow, and then she Wicked Mistresses him again. But between armour and soulstones, he's still on 2 or 3 wounds. The Woldgeist is attacking him as well, but he's just so hard to put down. We go on into the 4th turn. I believe I win the initiative, but again the tree just can't take down Dashel, and Lucius throws the book at it, and that's really freed Cog's crew up. Finally, Lucius makes Dashel bimble off and drop a scheme marker, and then drops a scheme marker himself, putting 2 on the centre line. That's something like 6 AP for the price of 3. Well, if you include that 0 action for the hidden sniper. The guild guard then shoots at Lilith and puts 2 damage on her, which is just rude. Barbarous kills his guild guard and then nimbles off to place another scheme marker within the deployment zone for breakthrough. Dashel runs away to go place his 2nd marker. We forget that he's slowed, but it didn't really matter because he would have done this next turn anyway. But it's really annoying because Lilith has to use 2 of our actions to run across to chase him so that she's in range. She casts her Wicked Mistress to knock his head against the beam, but the bastard pulls out the red joker, and I can't cheat higher than an 18. Gah! So finally I place the forests underneath this guild guard, because I'm terrified that he might walk around and engage me and prevent me getting into the entourage zone. We go into the 5th turn and I filter out the black joker again. It's probably like the 3rd time in a row that I've ditched this card at the beginning of the turn, and that's a pretty lackluster hand still. I get the initiative. Lilith tries twice more to bash Dashel's brains out against the wooden beam. She succeeds the last time, putting him on his last wound, but the 2nd time he pulls a 19 and the best I can do is an 18. Oh, what does it take to put this guy down? So, thwarted, the mother of monsters, queen of the Neverborn, slinks into the deployment zone to score entourage. So, Lucius needs to put down his 4th counter, and we work out that he can give this guild guard enough AP for it to get around the corner and drop it just on the centre line. So off he goes, slowed by the woods at first, he manages to make it round the corner, just from Lucius' actions alone. But just as Cog's enacting the move, I see an opportunity, and loyal Barbarous bounds off after him, leaping these height 1 walls to engage the guard and prevent him from putting down his scheme marker. And try as he might, the guild guard can't get away from the Nephilim. Dashel just dashes off over here. We forget that he's slowed again, but he would have had enough AP to drop this marker. And there it is, the end of the game. Reading the cards a little bit more carefully after the battle, we realised that Lucius could have just commanded himself to just place a scheme marker on top of this, as it doesn't count as a tactical action. So he could have scored full points for line in the sand, but we felt the chase was was entertaining enough. But yeah, great game. The terrain was very much in my favour, but despite that, Lucius's crew very nearly held the line. I mean, my Neverborn looked pretty shredded when they reached the other side, and the Neverborn Guild Alliance still end in a fairly commanding position in the centre of the board. So yeah, hats up to my opponent. The final scores were 7 to Lilith, 3 points for Entourage, 3 points for Breakthrough, and 1 point for Reckoning, and 4 points to Lucius, 2 points for Bodyguard, 1 point for Line in the Sand, and 1 point for Reckoning. Considering this was Cog's first game with Lucius, I think that wasn't a bad showing. He thought he companioned a bit too much in this game, particularly in turn 2, and he should have let me open myself up a bit, rather than plinking away at the Waldgeist. For myself, putting the Nephilim slightly in the forest and within line of sight of the guild guards on the barrels just meant that it took far too much damage when it didn't need to. But other than that, I'm fairly happy with how I played, and it's not often I get to say that. Fun game. Thanks to my opponent, and thank you for watching. Take care.